Hello, I am Brian Downs, and this is a Republic if you can keep it. Welcome back to the channel. It's June 28th, 2025, about 8:45 in the morning. Let's talk about what happens when you put the toddler in charge of the stealth bombers. So, to recap recent history, Israel finally got tired of Iran backing every gang of genocidal anti-Semitic maniacs on the map, Hamas, the Houthi rebels, etc., etc. And Israel started firing missiles at Iran designed to degrade Iran's capability to hurt Israel. Iran has fired back. Certainly the Israelis have been winning that exchange. So then President Donald Trump, who thinks in terms of headlines and of being the center of attention always, decides, hey, he doesn't want to let Israel get all the attention, so he's going to get involved. He gets Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth in the room. Pete Hegseth, of course, being an entire subplot of incompetence and farcical. I can't think of a word bigger than incompetence at the moment. Witness the signal scandal and, Pete Hegseth. They launch airstrikes against Iranian nuke labs. Pete Hegseth will come out after these airstrikes and crow to everyone that Donald Trump has overseen the most complex, most secretive military operation in all of history. Yeah, it certainly puts the D-Day landings in the shade, doesn't it? Let's talk about that for just 1 second. No, Secretary Hegseth, absolutely not. What you did was you loaded the bunker buster bombs, which was absolutely predictable. These laboratories are built deep underground to make them hard to destroy with airstrikes. The only munition known in the world that is not nuclear that could destroy a lab like that are the bunker busters. Then you load those bunker buster bombs onto what? Oh, I don't know. Bombers probably are the best choice compared to go-karts, I guess, maybe. And then you fly the bombers to the target. Ooh, that's a surprise. And then once the bombs have been dropped, you fly the bombers back home. So it was not complicated, and it was absolutely what anyone who knows anything about modern warfare would have expected. So it wasn't all that shocking or secretive either. So let's move on. They hit these targets. Was Iran on the cusp of having a nuclear weapon? No, not according to the American intelligence community. But of course, President Donald Trump and his White House simply contradict anything the American intelligence community tells them that they don't like the sound of. Donald Trump is, and this is an important point, the textbook example of a bad intelligence customer, because he decides what he wants to hear, and then he expects his intelligence operatives to prove it to him. He's not interested in the truth. Of course, Donald Trump has never been interested in the truth. He's interested in being told that he's right. This is how you go wrong. So we hit these targets. Now, these targets, of course, were labs designed, to move Iran closer to having a nuclear weapon, which means that there's a pretty good chance that the labs were empty when the missiles started flying between Iran and Israel. Anyone in Iran with a brain in their head would say probably a good idea to evacuate our uranium, all the expensive and complicated equipment that handles and processes it, and get it out of those labs, because everybody knows, including the American Air Force, where those labs are. And we know that the Americans have weapons capable of seriously damaging, if not destroying them. So, very good chance that you're attacking a target that's not there anymore. Doesn't stop Donald Trump and Secretary Hegseth from crowing that the operation was an absolute complete success, when, of course, no assessment of the target on the ground is possible. Yes, you know that the bombs were dropped. That's it. And very often these sorts of facilities are designed to be fairly quickly repaired in case of an airstrike. This is a tactic and a strategy that was known in World War II, wherein all the major powers, of course, engaged in strategic bombing And very often tank factories, aircraft factories that were damaged in raids like these were put back into service within a matter of weeks, because they're designed to be resilient to the kind of attack that they are most likely to suffer. So, were these labs vital to Iran's efforts in their conflict with Israel, their current conflict? No. Were the Iranians about to produce a nuclear weapon? Nobody but Donald Trump thinks that's true. Let's suppose that we have delayed their nuclear weapons program by a year. That just means we're back in the same problem again. Let's remember that President Barack Obama had negotiated a diplomatic solution to this problem, a treaty to which the Iranians had been adhering, and which had put the Iranian nuclear weapons program on permanent hiatus, until, of course, President Trump withdrew the U.S. from that treaty, thereby rendering the treaty null, void, and dead. Why did he do that? Because he liked airstrikes, I guess? Or because he couldn't tolerate the idea that Barack Obama might have a victory on his record, an accomplishment. So then, of course, Donald Trump is yelling that he ought to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Typically, they don't give out the Peace Prize for ordering, airstrikes. He also starts yelling that there is now a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, but then the governments of Iran and Israel say, no, we haven't agreed to that, and they keep shooting at each other. Then Trump starts yelling about how they ought to adhere to the ceasefire that he has imagined, because he has imagined it. This, of course, has been one of the questions about Donald Trump for many years. Does he believe his own lies? Does he really believe that because he says it, it's true? Or does he simply believe that everyone should act like it's true? Of course, he's worked very hard to put himself into a position where he can force people to behave like his lies are true, because their paychecks depend on him, their careers depend on him. In this way, he has most recently accumulated Carolyn Leavitt and Pete Hegseth and Stephen Miller and other people who will cheerfully repeat whatever lies they're ordered to in order to stay next to power. Does Trump believe his own lies? Does it matter? He's clearly in cognitive decline and his health is failing. So have we moved into a place where he in fact does believe his own lies now? Anyway, he certainly seems to believe that because he has declared that there's a ceasefire between Iran and Israel, there is a ceasefire, and anyone who says differently or certainly behaves differently inspires his wrath. Another question, of course, with Trump. How do we sort out the incompetence from the malfeasance from the self-dealing? Historians will make their careers on this question. What is certainly true is that Donald Trump is a man who thinks in terms of television headlines, a man who wants to be the center of attention, who wants to stuff his own mouth while having his ass kissed, and a man who has fleets of strategic bombers at his disposal that are nuclear capable. This is one among the many reasons that Donald Trump should be removed from office. Is any number of illegal executive orders and impeachable offenses. The fact that the 25th Amendment, which allows for the removal of the president in case his brain turns to cottage cheese, for example, and he is rendered in any way incapable of carrying out the duties of his office, should have been acted upon months ago. One day soon, Donald Trump will no longer be president of the United States, because sanity will prevail, and we will have a better world. I hope that you'll help.